Now you might say, Paul, I don't have time to sit down and take all these guys to breakfast and lunch. I'm a busy CEO, I'm running my business. And that's a very valid point. You probably don't have time for that. But put somebody on your team on the case. Somebody on your team should go out and build these relationships in order for you to have a fat acquisition pipeline, because you want to give yourself optionality. Now, when I think of some of the failed acquisitions that I've seen over the years, they tend to have a common thread. And one of those threads is optionality. So CEOs will often take a very narrow view. Take Jennifer, for example. She didn't think through her strategy. She didn't think through her acquisition criteria. A book showed up at her desk. Competitors for sale. She wanted to do a deal. She moved forward with the deal, but she didn't look at anything else. I asked her, I said, did you look at any other acquisition opportunities? And she said, no. Were there any potential opportunities? Well, maybe, I don't know, they weren't on the market. That's the importance of developing your own proprietary deal flow, but it's also the importance of creating optionality for yourself, right? You want to have choices so that you can compare them. You know, in the valuation discussion I had a few weeks ago, I mentioned Starbelly.com. Halo Industries acquired Starbelly.com, and it ultimately bankrupted the business. That disaster, that seed grew in the mind of the CEO, who had eyes for no other acquisition candidate, no other target. This is it. We have to do this deal. If we don't do this deal, we'll be in trouble. Well, that turned out to be nonsense in retrospect. But he didn't give himself any optionality. So I think what you need to focus on is optionality. And if you don't, you know, it's akin to being on the plane. You've been on the road 5 days, you sit down on a plane and they say, here are your dinner options. Tofu with cilantro marmalade or Chilean sea bass on a bagel. Like, you want neither of those. They sound disgusting. Those are your only two options and you're going to choose one of them. From an acquisition perspective, you want to give yourself as much optionality as possible. You want to have 50 different acquisition targets to go after, not just one, because the banker showed up and gave you the book. And again, similar to sell-side M&A, when a seller has 10 different buyers vying to buy for the business, the seller now doesn't have to concern himself with a busted deal, right? He's got 10 buyers, they're competing. He's now got some resolve. He can really ask for what he needs and wants because he's got a lot of buyers out there. In the same way for you, if you've got a variety of different acquisition targets, all of which can satisfy your needs to a certain degree, that can close that strategic gap that you're trying to manage, it puts you in a position now to be able to bargain harder. It puts you in a position to really understand and compare and contrast the different candidates. So I would encourage you, if you're going to get into the acquisition game, that you start to think about, how do I develop proprietary deal flow? It is a long process, right? You don't go out and meet with folks on a Monday and 2 months later you're doing the deal, although that's possible and I've seen it. More times than not, this is a multi-year process of building relationships with acquisition targets. Eventually, these folks will sell, and you're going to find yourself in a very, very good position to be able to buy them because you've built a relationship. You've spent the time with them. They're going to ignore the email, and they're going to call you. In the second installment of the private equity series, we talked about Gary, and Gary sat down with Chris and John. Chris and John worked for Cedar Fork Capital. Those two were masterful, making Gary feel like they only had eyes for him, and they built a relationship with him. They wined and dined him. They took him out to the Bulls games. They spent time, money, and effort. They built that relationship, and he invested in them. When they invested in him, he invested in them. It was very difficult for Gary to look at any other acquirer. I mean, he asked himself, how can anyone else do better? These guys are spending money on me. They're spending time with me. They're investing in me. Why would I double cross them and sell to somebody else just for a few dollars more? Is a very, very powerful tool in your toolkit to keep sellers from talking to other buyers, right? If they've spent a lot of time with you and with your team, they're going to come to you first. And that's the way private equity firms and big corporate buyers are able to elbow out other folks from showing up in their voicemail inbox, in their email inbox. So that's the same approach that you should take. Strategy, criteria, pipeline. Reach out to these folks very gently, not to necessarily buy their business, but express your interest in potentially doing that, but nothing more than building the relationship. And if you do that, and you do that consistently, and you do that effectively, I guarantee you'll have a proprietary deal flow pipeline. And you'll find yourself in a position where you're not in an auction scenario. You're not dealing with a guy like me on the other side of the table who's trying to fleece you. You're going to be dealing with a seller who has a lot of trust and faith in you. I'm not saying you should take advantage of the seller. And when we talk about valuations and structuring the offer and negotiation later on in the series, I'm going to get into how you should think of pricing and valuation and how you can keep yourself out of hot water. But for now, once you decide an acquisition will serve your strategic purposes, then you focus on the proprietary process. We'll be filming the remainder of the Buy-Side Masterclass series in the coming weeks. So if you have any requests or questions, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And finally, as we get into the more technical aspects of buy-side M&A, I'll be able to provide you with a variety of different items, such as a template LOI, a buy-side due diligence checklist that I think will come in handy as you go out and attempt to make acquisitions on your own. I put a link in the description section below. You can click on that so you can be notified as soon as those are ready to go out. Here at POTOMAC, we love to kill it for our clients. And I think that education is the cornerstone which allows our clients to make the best decisions for themselves. The more you can understand about the nuances of how strategic acquirers work, how the operations of private equity firms work, and the psychology and the tactics of an M&A transaction, the better you're going to be when it comes time to pull the trigger. If you own a business and you're being contacted by strategic acquirers, search funds, private equity firms, and you're trying to size up what you might do, take a step back and give us a call. We'll help you forge a plan, whether that exit is a year from now, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. We'll help you think through a plan that is specifically tailored to your financial goals and objectives. So please contact us directly. I've put a link to the contact form in the description of this video, and you can also contact me directly on LinkedIn. And feel free to share this masterclass series with somebody who you think might benefit from it. Again, I'm Paul Giannamore. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next one.